All right, the last time we talked, we were finding the shape and comparing it to other shapes. Remember, we checked to see if the ear is this long, how long is the head. So then I would draw my ear and check it to the head. Ear, head to the other ear, and ultimately build the structure of, in this case, a goat with just basic shapes. Okay, so I've got this drawn out here, and I wanted to talk today about refining that shape so that it looks a little bit more like a goat and less like a bunch of basic shapes. So let me see what happens if I change the focus on this. Not very good. Not any different. Is that better or worse? I feel like it's worse. There we go. Tip it up a little. All right, so when I look at this goat over here, I'm gonna just start with the top of its head. And horns literally grow out of a goat's skull. So you can see that the hair on this kind of comes up a little bit because it's not like deer where they grow new ones every year. All right, these guys keep theirs for life. So when I draw this down here, I want to make sure that what I draw matches this picture. So I'm just going to come over here and I am going to change this line just a little bit so that that hair is growing over the horn, and the head tucks in behind just a little bit right here. And then I've got more hair, and then it drops down to where the ear is. So I just fixed this top line to match this top line. So then when I come down the face, I can see here that the eye bumps out. So it comes down across the ear, basically, cuts across the ear. So I'm going to put that in there. And then I observe that this line comes down to the muzzle. So we're going to pull this muzzle around just a tiny bit and bring this line down. Do you notice too that I use sketchy lines? Because once I sketched it and I find one I like, I can come back and darken it up and then erase out anything I don't need. So what I'm left with, and I feel like the camera keeps doing strange things, what I'm left with is the line that I want to keep. If I do that, there we go. Okay, so same thing on this side, but in this case, the head kind of comes straight down and wraps around in the neck. So the ear attaches. See, this line here is going here. And then his or her, I'm gonna say probably her because its beard's not that big. If it's a buck, they get these real nasty, like hair, big, giant beard. And I say nasty because they smell bad during breeding season. But the girl goats like it, I guess. So I'm going to sketch in this line here for the jaw. And then I'm going to decide which one I like and erase out the extra parts. So now when I come down here, I have this almost circular muzzle, and I make sure I have that in here. And I can see that the bottom lip is thinner than the top one, so I'm going to draw it in. And it doesn't wrap all the way around because we don't see this back side. All I see is where it stops almost straight across. So that's how I'm going to draw it. All right. Now, if I look here where the nose comes in, this side's real skinny. In fact, I did it wrong right there, actually. And it has a little curve to it because its nose is curved. So let me get rid of the lines I don't want. And then I will put this nose shape back in here. And it actually kind of does this number. Okay, so if I come back up here, I do not see an eyeball on this side, but I do see an eyeball on this side. And it lines up with the bottom of the ear. The trick here is to pay attention to how everything lines up and connects with each other. So if this eye comes straight across under its ear, right, here's where under its ear would be. And then this white line, or the edge of the eye here, is almost even with the horn. So I'm going to make myself a little sketchy guideline there. So now I know that this eye happens right here. Did you know another fun goat fact, because I used to raise them, that goats have rectangular pupils in their eye? They are not round like ours. They are rectangles. This white line extends all the way down to the muzzle. So I'm gonna kind of lightly pencil that in and mark off where the white is here. Get rid of some extra lines I have going on. Same thing here. This white line goes from the horn down to make a triangle. So I'm gonna put that in. And it's a little darker right there, so I'm gonna put that in. Now let's look at the ear shape. So all I'm doing is refining the edges. The same thing works at the body. But when I look at these ears, there's a little triangle of white right here, and then the oval of the inside of the ear. So I'm going to put in this where it's ear folds right here, and then decide which of these tapers a little bit out here at the edge, which of these lines I want to keep. Same thing on the other side. This is a much larger triangle. In fact, this triangle, if I compare it, is just about half of the ear. So if I measure that triangle and compare it to the tip, it's about half. So if I figure this about half, then I know that I'm going to see the ear attached to the head here, and this triangle is going to roll up here. And then the ear attaches here and comes out, and actually it looks much thinner than I originally drew it. So if I check that, so the ear is that long, that's about half. So if it's this, then it's about half. Yep, we're doing good. And I'm gonna pull this up here and then get rid of my extra lines. So there's some patience involved in this. Do the best you can. All right? This is a learning process, and you learn by practice. When I look at this horn, really, this edge is pretty good. It has some age rings going on here. You can't actually tell the age of it, but as it grows out, kind of like fingernails. Right, it's got some ridges on it. And then erase out my extra lines. Okay? So when I get to the body, I didn't even put the legs in on this one, I guess. All right, but I'm still gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna follow these lines. And the belly comes down here, and I have a hip sticking up here, which I did put in. One I drew, I think last week for your class, ran off the, so in this case, we can see this leg tucked in here. So there's the belly. See this space? It's about the same as the hoof. So let's check it. Yep. So the hoof needs to be about the same width. Yeah, there's little split toes. We're climbing around on mountains in the wild. All right. A lot of this is just furriness. So I'll just put furriness in here and get rid of this straight line. All right, now this isn't actually, this belly line is not a hard line. So I'm just gonna lighten that up a little bit, just so I remember where it goes, but that it's not real obvious, okay? So I would then keep going with this, same way, comparing one part to another. All right, neck comes down, shoulder comes around, and down and into the leg. And notice again, I'm using sketchy lines so I can erase out what I don't want. All right, little legs tucked in here. Now I have to pay closer attention. I'm gonna hold this a little closer to you for just a minute. So I'm gonna compare how this matches up with what's already on my paper. So this leg, if I draw a straight line, comes up inside the eye. So when I'm drawing it down here, this is the inside of the eye. If I roughly come straight down, then I know this is where the knee belongs. All right. Now, how thick is this leg in comparison to, say, the muzzle? Let's check. So this is this big. I'm gonna check the leg, and I thought so. It's just a tiny bit less. So I'm gonna measure this muzzle and then know it goes right here. Okay, so knee comes up and around. Okay, that's fairly bony, so we'll leave that. The chest. So I'm gonna draw it that way because the leg then hoof back here. Now, where's this foot stop? The foot stops even with the ear. So if I come down from the ear, I know the foot has to come over to here. This is all about comparing one part to another. Okay? Elbow. Elbow's right above here because it's all wrapped around, and then there is this little bit of a line right here. So now I can come in and erase out the parts I don't want. Same thing here. Belly comes across, or chest, I guess, rather. Leg is here. Extends a little bit beyond the chest. How big is that in comparison? Well, I can already see that it's slightly smaller. So if this is this big, this has to be slightly smaller. And I erase out the lines I don't want. Same thing here with the neck. So this is a pretty hard line. Hard meaning I can see the edge most of the way down. And the other side of this neck is a hard line and softens. So this comes down and then it softens as it flares out into the rest of the body. So erase out the ones I don't want. Okay, so now I've looked at this. I started with basic shapes. That shouldn't take very long at this point. And as I drew basic shapes, I compared how big is one piece to another to make sure that what I draw matches my picture. Then I just start working one part to the next and refining the edge lines. It's really pretty straightforward. I'm not going to say it's simple because it's a lot of thinking while you're working on drawing lines, but please remember it's a pencil. You have an eraser. Do not be afraid to use it, but don't erase until you know which lines you don't want. It's okay to sketch it out and say, oh, well, that's a little low. So sketch it higher before you erase out the lines you don't want. Otherwise, you lose reference points. So use basic shapes, pay attention to proportion, and start refining lines. How does one part compare to another? Use sketchy lines and erase the ones that you don't want.